Hello, welcome back to Blender Live Noding. In this episode, I want to share with you one way you can generate some kind of cobblestone pattern using Blender and Sverchok Add-On. So I think this is the one that I will be creating. There's actually like a lot of way to generate something like this already, and depending on the pattern, like this one, so there's some kind of procedural nature in here. So there's a pattern. You can definitely use a texture that's repeated, but if you really want the real geometry, you might want to kind of study something like Sverchok. Some people do this using Houdini or a different package, but I'll be using Blender. So this is the result that we'll be creating, and the actual wire mesh looking something like this, and you can subdivide it further. So it's kind of okay. It's kind of high res. So delete everything. And the way it will be generated is I'm using animation nodes, and whenever there's a frame change, it's gonna generate this thing. So it's kind of like magical, but don't worry about the generator yet. I will be deleting this for now. I'll stop the calculations on animation nodes. I'll be using Sverchok. So there isn't much going on here. It's very pretty basic. This is the baker over here. I'm gonna put it over there, and this is the one we are looking at. This is just the viewer, and it is changing the seed based on the frame number. So that's really what's going on. So I actually started with a plane, just a simple plane. This can be any size, maybe 4x4, smaller, or 10x10. It's still gonna work. So what's really happening is that the plane is subdivided into grid, and then this setup over here simply filtering the boundary of this grid. So it simply get the outer part of the grid. So the inside part is still remain the same, but the outer part is being randomized and being pushed randomly, so it's generating more interesting shape. The middle part is still like this kind of grid. So that's basically what's going on. I'm gonna delete the grease pencil. Where's the grease pencil? There you go. Okay, so yeah, this is simply selecting the outer part, and then here there's a vertices mask that goes into transform select. So this part is the most interesting bit. I think this is when I can kind of adjust the outer part and the inner part. There's also this smoothing of vertices that I'm doing here. If I turn it off, you can see now it's just the outer part, and there's the inside part. So the outer part we already separated from the grid itself, and for the outer part we can use something like I'm using vector noise, but I can also use other noise. Like cell noise is the weirdest one always, but let's use like a Voronoi maybe, so we get something like more like a crack. So we can control the noise itself, the strength, etc. Sometimes there's overlapping. You don't want that. Just pick something that you like. Maybe not too strong in that area. So okay, cool. And back to the smoothing. That's only the smoothing will take the grid and kind of smooth it together, so it's more like a single part. You might want that, you might not want that, so it's up to you. And there's a frame that's controlling the seed going on. There's also this extra randomizations if you want that. If you don't want, just get rid of it. Especially in the Z, you don't want that in the Z. You don't want any randomization in the Z. Alright, so that generates the cobblestone. And there's extra part here, of course, extrusion. You can have a single extrusion. I'll show you. That's a single extrusion. So that's probably enough for what you're doing. You can just bake it. or you can have multiple extrusion. So that's this node. I found this node pretty interesting. The way it's extruded in this fashion, it's very interesting. See, enable multiple extrude, and then I have this list input for the extrusion itself. This you can actually use this to make a finger or like the whole human body. Just extrude. And this is of course looking something more like a tofu if you increase this like that. I don't know, it's some kind of interesting 3D cube, and you have control over the noise over here. So that's kind of interesting in that regards. Alright, so there you go, and then you can smooth it and you get something that looking a little bit like pillow on this one. This one more like a stone. It's kind of alright. And let's look at the baker. The baker is simply looking at all this Sverchok out. It's looking at this group with all this Sverchok naming, but this one generates the grid, but basically the one that's actually doing the job is this guy, bake button, and the bake button is being controlled by animation nodes. So switch to animation nodes, and this is the script that's generated. When you hit this button, there's this script that's running. You just copy this script, paste it into a text, and then open up animation nodes. Where is it? Okay, this guy, and simply run it for every frame. Not always, just every frame change. Okay, so let's see what it looks like. So whenever the frame is changing, it's gonna generate this cobblestone or pillow stone, and then here Sverchok grid. There you go. It's a little bit better. Yep. That's how you generate this cobblestone. There are many ways, of course. You can actually start with just a simple grid. You can sort of use a modifier for this. So a simple grid, I believe, if you just edge split it at a small angle and then you smooth it, you're gonna get this something that's kind of like cobblestone. It's not always, but it's pretty good. And then you can use solidify, and then you can remesh it. You know, there are many ways to do this. You can bevel it first, and then you do a remesh, turn off, remove disconnected. This is also can be kind of decent. Know how you can randomize this further, but yeah, that's another way. But it's this one. Look, you can see the detail is so much nicer. You have control on this, and you can when you actually start to scale it in X or Y, and then you rotate it, you're gonna get an interesting pattern that's a little bit more like this guy. So that's a more advanced cobblestone or brick. This one is interesting. So definitely I want to study this further. There's one that I want to replicate. This guy over here. This is also interesting. All right, there you go. That's a quick cobblestone setup in Sverchok. But whenever you try to make something like this, you're gonna get a result, right? But on top of that, you will learn something over here. This is the algorithm. This is the thinking. This is the interesting part. If you're into this kind of thing, you learn how to generate this in a using different algorithm. So even though I'm not super expert on this, but this is still interesting. All right, there you go. Let me know what you think. If you have anything to add, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.